Guys, if this guy can do it, so can you. Ladies and gentlemen, 14 months. 14 months. That's how long it took me to go from a 4-hour 48 marathon to a 2-hour 56. Did I mention I did it in only 14 months? But I'm not special. When I started, I was overweight, I weighed 250 pounds, and I didn't know what I was doing. But I learned it step by step. And in this video, I'll tell you exactly what I did. The mileage, the workouts, the mindset, everything it took for me to trim 2 hours off my time. Did I mention 14 months? When I started, I wasn't able to run. I was walking. I was walking because it felt good. I was going through a tough time, and the mental clarity that it provided to me, something else. So I was walking. I was walking every day. I'd go for a walk around the bay, walk around the corner, and I stretched that walk out. Eventually I was walking an hour a day. One day I said, what if I run to that pole over there? Did I run to that pole over there? And I did it. It was like 100 meters. And then I ran 200 meters, then a kilometer, then a mile. Next thing you know, I was running 2, 3, 4 miles in one stretch. It wasn't fast, I wasn't moving quick, but I was moving, and that felt great. At first it was tough, but eventually it got easier. I loved what running provided me. Fresh air, the mental clarity, and I always ran without headphones. And I just started simply. I didn't know, so I did 4 or 5 jogs, 30 minutes a week. That was roughly 3 miles or a 5K. And I liked running on the weekend, so I started stretching out that run. I went from 3 miles to 4 miles to 5 miles, and I kept adding 1 mile every week. And eventually I was able to do 10 miles consecutively at the same slow pace. And that slow progression built me a base. That got me to my first marathon, the Manitoba Marathon in 2021. I signed up for the Manitoba Marathon. I thought I was ready. I was able to do 10 miles. I thought, it's a few more. I'll be able to do it, no problem. That day killed me. It took me 4 hours and 48 minutes. It was hard. Just like all you guys that are trying to do your first marathon, I hit the wall at mile 20. I wanted to quit. I walked. I didn't drink enough water. I didn't have any nutrition. I was totally lost and I didn't know what I was doing. But I walked, I pushed through, and I finished. It was painful, it was torturous, but I got it done. 4 hours and 48 minutes. And I learned what every first-time marathoner learns. You can't fake endurance. You can't fake your base. You need those miles. You need that training. This was my first experience with type 2 fun. That type 2 fun is where you feel pain when you're doing it. It's not fun while you're doing it, but the day after, you're like, man, that was fun. It was so fun. I want to do it again. So I set myself a goal. I'm gonna qualify for the Boston Marathon. I thought I could do it in 3 to 5 years, something like that, but I didn't know where to start. I went online and I followed Higdon's plan. That's it. Just one of these template plans that I found online, and I started doing that. It wasn't complicated. It was 5 jogs per week. There was no coach, there was no fancy gear. It was just me, my para runners, and consistency. That plan for me was 5 runs a week, 4 short ones, 1 long one, the long one on the weekend. And I would build up my mileage week over week, never more than 10% increases in my mileage. And I would do 2 weeks of increases, 1 week of pullback. That way my body had a chance to recover and soak all this volume in. This was my first real marathon training plan. So there I learned that the training run should probably go up to about 20 miles. And that's what I did. The Tucson Marathon, it was about 3 months out, and I trained for that. I built up that weekend long run up to 20 miles. Kept the same pace. I didn't increase my speed. I wasn't doing tempos. I wasn't doing anything else. I was just running nice and easy, consistently, 5 days per week, 4 slow, easy runs, 1 long run on the weekend. And that's it. That was my plan. Built up the miles to about 30, and eventually I was up to about 40 miles per week. So I signed up for that Tucson Marathon. I was ready. I had done 20 miles in training. I showed up on race day, I was prepared. And that day I ran a 3-hour and 58 marathon, sub 4 hours. I was proud. I'd done well. I was running 5 days a week instead of 3 or 4. I was consistent with my weekend runs, and I was doing much more volume on the weekend. I was still a big guy, so I started tracking what I was eating. I wanted to know what I was putting in my body. And that was a big jump. I wasn't dieting, I was just tracking what I was eating. And that made a huge difference because over time I lost the weight pretty quickly. And I started taking recovery seriously. I was sleeping more than before. I put away my phone at night so I wouldn't have a blue screen right in my face. I was eating well, and I was stretching. So these 3 things took 50 minutes off my marathon in about 3 months. Once I broke 4 hours, I knew that I had to get faster. I knew I was able to do the mileage, but I wasn't doing them fast. So this is where I started doing some speed work. I did hills, I did tempos, and I did intervals. So for hills, I would find a hill outside. I would run up that hill 30 to 60 seconds, nice hard uphill sprint, and then I would take it easy running down. I would repeat that 8 to 10 times with a 10-15 warm-up and a 10-15 minute cool down, and that was my workout. Tempos, I did that roughly once a week. I would do 4 to 6 miles at a pace where I could hold for an hour. They sometimes call this your 10K pace. I would do a 10-minute warm-up, 10, 15-minute cool down, boom, that was my workout. Intervals, I love these, absolutely love these. 400, 800 meter, or 1 mile repeats with an equal amount of rest time in between. So if you're running at about half the speed, your full out effort, you end up doing about half the distance for your recovery. So if you're doing 400 meters all out, you're gonna do about 200 meters of recovery. If you're doing a mile all out, your recovery might be 600 to 800 meters. Repeat these, depending on the time, for about 40 minutes of hard workout with a 10-minute warm-up, 10-minute cool down, boom, that's your workout. These combinations gave me speed, strength, and endurance all at once, and I knew that I could fit them in my schedule because they were about an hour workout for each. I took this seriously, so I also added strength and mobility work, and I did this 2 to 3 times a week. Nothing fancy. I'd focus on squats, lunges, core work, mobility drills. Basically, I would look something up on YouTube and I would do it. Nothing fancy. And I picked my next race. I was gonna run the Las Vegas Marathon, and I had set that as an intermediary goal because I didn't want to have big goals. I wanted to have short intermediary goals as well. This is what my week would look like. Monday was usually a recovery jog or a nice easy jog, 30 to 50 minutes. Tuesday, I would do one of my 3 speed workouts, let's say intervals. And then Wednesday was another easy day, 30 to 50 minutes. Thursday, I would do the other of my speed work, either intervals or hills. Friday was an hour easy. Saturday was Run Club. This is a club that I created because I loved running. I love running with buddies. I run every day by myself, so this is my one day a week where I got to share stories of running, successes, training plans with buddies, and I loved it. That was a 1 hour workout. And Sunday, the longest workout of the week, the long run. And then the Sunday long run became my most important workout. It was mileage, I would stretch it out. Usually I'd have some sort of fast finish in there, but it was a long workout that I really looked forward to. At first, I was just doing the mileage on Sunday. Long run, I would just hammer out the miles, nice and easy pace. But eventually I started adding fast finishes to that. And here's what that looks like. Let's use 16 miles as an example. For a 16-mile workout, you might do a 1 mile warm-up, then you might do 8 or 9 miles at about a minute slower than race pace. Then you would do 5-ish miles at race pace with a 1 mile cool down. That is your total workout, and in there you're gonna go hard at race pace for 5 miles. What I love about it is those 5 miles when you're doing that race pace, you're doing it on tired legs. You're doing it on cardio that's been worked. You're doing it on a body that maybe hasn't had all the nutrition and hydration it needs. You're really working out and you're seeing what your body can handle. And running at race pace gives you a vibe, gives you a sense of what you need to do on race day. I love running these workouts at race pace because when that big race comes, when the marathon day comes, you know what race pace is. You've ran all those miles at race pace. You know it cold. And every week or two, I would add a mile or two and stretch that out. And that's when the magic happens. When you're able to stretch out that long run up to 20 or 22 miles in your fast finish, all the way up to 8 or 10 miles, you're getting all that speed work at race pace. And that's when the magic happens, when you can run all those miles and still finish fast. So another 3-4 months after Tucson, I ran Vegas. In Vegas, I ran a 3 hour and 23 minute marathon. It was crazy. I was leaner, I was faster, I was stronger than I ever was, and the results spoke for themselves. Consistency paid off. I was down about 50 pounds, down from 250 to about 200. Stronger, leaner, and faster than ever. But I was hungry. I was hungry for more. I wanted to go get my Boston qualifying time. For me, that meant a 3:05. Plus the buffer, I probably needed to break 3 hours. So I picked my next race. I picked my Boston qualifier. It was gonna be the Big Bear Revel Series Marathon just outside of LA in San Bernardino, and I was pumped. I was so excited. I was so dialed in for this race. Nothing mattered more for me than this race. I was so excited. So I hired a nutritionist. I hired a personal trainer, and I tweaked all those finer details. I bought the best cheater shoes I could buy, and I started really focusing. I hired a coach. So now I had a coach, a nutritionist, a personal trainer, and I really wanted to trim 23 minutes off that time in about 3 or 4 months. And for that, I just kept doing more of the same, more of the threshold workouts, more of the tempos, the hills, the intervals, more time, more mileage, more time on the track, eating healthier, working with the coach, getting stronger. All that just accumulated. I built a bigger base. I was able to do more miles at that same pace. My legs got stronger. I did some speed work and I was able to turn over those legs faster. And sure enough, now I was able to see myself, could picture myself running a few miles at race pace. Once I could run a few miles at race pace, I knew it was within reach. I knew I'd be able to stretch that out to 5 miles, to 10 miles, and eventually to 26 miles. And on race day in San Bernardino, 14 months after I did my first marathon, I did it. I ran a 2 hour and 56 marathon and I qualified for the Boston Marathon. That's 1 hour and 52 minutes faster than the marathon I had just run 14 months before. So here's what actually moved the needle for me. First off, consistency. Running 5 to 7 days every single week, not missing those workouts, getting the miles in. 2, slow, long runs, not having to push the pace every single time you go out there. More miles, less pace. 3, gradual mileage increase, 10% rule max, right? Don't go from 40 miles to 60 miles in 1 week. It's too much. Strength work. It's important, 2 or 3 sessions per week. It doesn't have to be every day, but just build some of that strength and reinforce those knees, those tendons, those hips, because you're gonna do a lot of miles. Your body needs to be strong. 5, food tracking. Just the fact that I was tracking what I was eating gave me such a wealth of data. And then I was able to lose the weight fairly easily. And trust me, if you're doing the miles and if you're tracking what you eat, you will lose the weight if you're overweight like me. 6, short-term races. Every few months, I had something to train for. I knew that I had something in 2 or 3 or 4 months, and I was giving all my effort for that, and I could see the goal, right? And lastly, fast finishes. I can't tell you how much these things did for me, and I still love them, and I still do them every single Sunday to this day. They teach you how to hold race pace. They teach you how to work on tired legs. They are phenomenal. I can't speak for them enough. That's it, guys. No hacks, no secret workouts, just small, consistent wins every single time you lace up the shoes. Don't overthink it. So if you're stuck at that 4.5 or 5 hour marathon and you want to get better, build your base, start with consistency. You will be shocked to see what kind of results you can get just by doing the same things every single day. And I mean, guys, if this guy can do it, so can you. Good luck, you'll get there.